So I would like to welcome you all part of the session for Intellipaat workshop on cloud fundamentals. So this side, Kevin here. So I have, as told by the team, I have already 11 years of experience as a senior cloud architect. So cool. So this session, so I'll show you what agenda I'm going to be following in this entire session. So let me show you the part of agenda. So this is the particular agenda for today. So we'll be talking it off. What is cloud computing? Also seeing types of clouds we have in the entire industry and what models does the platforms follow, and we'll also see cloud versus on-premise. What is the major difference between cloud and on-premise systems and cloud providers who are offering the cloud platforms for us so that we can use and make best out of them, and what different types of OSs are they offering, like you can say image, and we'll see services offered in cloud and what is the career in cloud, so how it helps you out when you comes into cloud. So let's see, what is cloud computing? What do you understand by the term cloud computing, guys? So cloud computing is nothing but you can access multiple services which are offered through remote access through internet. So that might be your databases, that might be your virtual machines, that might be your load balancers. It goes on and on. The list goes on and on, because random any cloud provider, they goes randomly over around about 150 to 200 services. So that depends completely on what service you want to go with. If you are from any AI background, you can go with that. If you are going from any machine learning background, you can go with that. So we have particular domains, particular specific services which you can use for that in the entire cloud industry. I hope it's pretty much clear, right, guys? What is meant by cloud computing? So what are the main benefits of using cloud computing? How do they differ from your on-premise systems when you use cloud computing? So these are the main differences, guys. So one is cost. Why cost? So cloud computing eliminates the capital expense which you need to keep for buying hardware or software when you're working on on-premise. Rather than purchasing the complete hardware, what you're doing in cloud computing, you're just renting up. You're just taking the machine or that hardware for lease, or you can go with pay as you go. So ultimately, in place of having that entire expenditure, you can only pay for whatever the amount you're willing to or you want to use that service in cloud computing. Also, and setting up everything in a remote data center will also gives you lots of electricity saving, right? And that will be as faster than your on-premise machines as well. Now, second one is the performance. As we are talking about, so people presume that you need a very much high performance bare metal machine. So if you want to go with some on-premise, you need to pay lots of money, and for that, so as we already spoke about cost, that's fine. If you have money as well, you need to buy these machines and you need to get it out. But that's not the way when you go with cloud. In cloud, you're just renting up the machines from the cloud provider. So ultimately, the cloud provider is the one who need to keep the entire expenditure rather than you. And the performance gonna be very faster than your machine. And also, there might be some limitations. For example, if you're from India, there might be a limitation that you're not getting the hardware which is available in some other parts of the world. But that's barrier has been taken out by cloud computing. So you can access the hardware wherever you are if you are just having access to internet. Let's see the third one, which is nothing but your productivity. Any guesses how does it affect on productivity? Okay, so let me speak it out. So people presume that you are purchasing the hardware, you're having the capital, you're purchasing the hardware, and you should also hire man to work on for the maintenance and all these things, right? You should get IT administrators, you should be having IT teams, and rather than working, you should be also having some people for the maintenance. So which ultimately end up affecting your productivity of your particular company, right, guys? But when you go with cloud, it's the job of the provider to maintain those servers, racking and stacking, patching of the machines, and everything. So all these things will be taken care of by the IT team of that particular cloud provider. So ultimately, you'll be saving up lots of bugs rather than just wasting on maintenance. That's the plus point of having machines or cloud computing. Now, the fourth one is speed. So the performance and speed are very much relatable, but in speed, guys, as I have told you, so most cloud computing services are provided with self-service and on-demand, which means that so whenever there is a demand, whenever there is a tender for the particular resource, then only this machine is going to be used. So until then, even if they are a high-performance machines, they'll not be in a use state. So what you can do, you can get them for less prices. So rather than holding up what AWS or your GCP or your Azure does us, guys, I'm just giving you the context scenario with these examples because they are the major players in this entire industry. So it doesn't mean that others will not do it, but I hope you're getting the context, right? So in place of giving all those resources, even those machines which are of very high capacity for on-demand pricing, they'll go with normal pricing. That's the best part of having these machines. And they're very flexible flexible and they can handle all your pressure of your complete planning. That's what comes as speed. And the fifth one is reliability. Guys, this point is very much important as per your interviews or if you go or anything else regarding cloud computing, because this is one of the main pillar of entire cloud computing, reliability. But what does reliability mean? So people presume that you are purchasing a hardware and you are keeping everything on premise and presume that you are having some disaster like earthquake or something like thunderstorm or something like that, then your entire service will go down, right? But using cloud computing, you'll be having disaster management system. Why? Because we'll be having multiple regions. While we go to the later parts of the slides, you'll come to know what is a region and what is the availability zone. Your data will be stored across multiple regions. So even if one is down, other will be up and running so that you can be access your data without any failures, which is nothing but disaster management. And the sixth main concern is security. So many cloud providers offer a broad set of policies and technology and controls over your security, because there are two types, guys. You might be storing your data on a hosted machine or a dedicated host. So what is the difference between both of them? So dedicated hosts are nothing but on the entire hardware, only your information or you'll be accessing that. But on the other part, if you're going with some public clouds or something like that, you'll be having multiple tenants, which is a cause for vulnerability. Security is the job of the vendors to keep it off with all their firewalls. That's the reason you'll be having firewalls for each and every service. So if I tell you something like EC2 in AWS, you have a firewall. We call them as security groups. And if you go to something called a subnet level, you'll be having firewall. We call them as NACLs, network access control list. So when we go to some VPCs, again, we'll be having, virtual private cloud, you'll be having this security over there. So it's completely secure. They make sure that every layer of the services are having security regarding the same. Now, what we'll do is, let's see what are the different types of clouds. This is going to be very interesting and you'll be knowing it off. So see this. So types of clouds. I hope you might have heard to these terms anytime before, right? Public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud. We also have another part which is like something called as multi-cloud, but it's not included because the main are these three: public, private, and hybrid. So let's see one by one what exactly they are. So let's go with public cloud. So people, by the term you understand, public cloud means the cloud will be accessed through multiple users, and whatever the data you store, that will also be stored across multiple regions and by multiple people. So people, Facebook, Twitter, all this comes under different model. These are not public clouds, all this Gmail and these things. So when I come to models, I'll talk about SaaS, something called as that. So then you'll be understanding what is the main difference between all these things and your cloud. So Google Drive is the best example which you can give for a public cloud. So yes, you can see public clouds are owned and operated by third-party cloud providers, like you can say Google, your GCP, AWS, Azure, all these things. And we have something like Alibaba, we have Nvidia, all these things as well. So I'm just giving you the example of Nvidia. Why? Because they will not offer public cloud, but they are having cloud. Yes, you have IBM as well. Now let's see what is the next one. What is the next point about that? So all the hardware and the software and the supporting infrastructure is completely owned by the cloud provider. Since it's a public cloud, the owner gonna be offering it, and we are the just users who are just using those services, right, guys? If you want to tell me in other words, you can say public clouds are like more or like the cloud environment is typically created from IT infrastructures and it's not owned by end users. We'll move on to the next one, which is nothing but private cloud. Let's see what is private cloud. Guys, I'm going very slow. Why? Because I just want you to understand what exactly is cloud and what are the models of cloud. Cool, people. So this is the private cloud. Let's see this. So guys, a private cloud moreover refers to a particular organization. So that cloud will not be able to access by any public. So those are very much owned for their own needs. So best examples, you can say Nvidia, you can say HP. And trust me, if you know something like Infosys, they have their own cloud as well. And this goes on and on. Even Apple has their own cloud. Not iCloud, guys, but for their own purpose. iCloud is the public offering which Apple does. So there you go. This point is important. Some companies also pay third-party service providers to host their private cloud, which means that I hope many of you might be knowing Salesforce, right, guys? So as we are talking, you might have heard to something called as Salesforce. So they are having their own cloud, and Salesforce also actually based on AWS for their users, which is nothing but another example of private cloud, which means that that company is taking a part of AWS or it's taking a contract from AWS for its private cloud. So you can simply say that private clouds are defined as completely cloud environment, which are only or very much exclusive to a particular group or an organization. Okay. And this usually runs behind a group of firewalls, which are completely protected according to that company need. So people, let's see the next important type, which is nothing but hybrid cloud. So what is hybrid cloud? So hybrid cloud means combining of two clouds. You can say one public, one private, or public or private to use the most out of it. Or hybrid, in hybrid cloud you can also merge some of your services from cloud and some of your services from on premises. Let's say you are having some of your oldest databases which takes lots of money to you to migrate entirely into cloud. Okay, in that place what you can do, rather than completely migrating into cloud, you can give it uplink to the cloud, which means that this remains on premises but you'll be able to access them through cloud. And trust me, every major player is there in this particular industry. Even small clouds are also there in this particular industry. Why? Because hybrid cloud makes both of your the best of both the worlds, either public or private. That's the reason every player tries to be in public cloud. This is pretty much regarding your hybrid cloud. Also, you have something like you have multi clouds where you can see when you want to merge the data or when you want to have a handle over cloud which are provided by multiple organizations. For example, you want to have some some cloud or some data from AWS, and you want to go and add with some other which are hosting in Azure, right? You can do the same. So multi-cloud comes into picture. Also, we have something called as community clouds, where the banking sector uses that as main. What do you mean by major players? See, let's see. Major players means the big companies like AWS, or you can say Azure, you can say GCP, you can say Alibaba, all the major players. Major players means the big companies in cloud. Okay, if you want to merge the services between multiple clouds, that's called as multi-cloud. I hope the next slide gonna be on cloud models. So people, these are very much interesting things. Don't get confused, but they're going to be interesting once I start telling to you what exactly each model means. So there are three models in your entire cloud, whatever may be the provider, even that's in Azure, even that's in AWS, even that's in GCP, Alibaba, whatever it is. Arca Exas is not considered as one of the main point. So these three are the main major ones. So people, there are three ones. So which are nothing but one is IaaS, or you can say infrastructure as a service, or you can say PaaS, platform as a service, and the third one is SaaS, software as a service. So let's dig inside what exactly they mean. Okay, so let's see IaaS first. So it's also known as hardware as a service. So what do you understand by this term hardware as a service, everyone? Okay, so guys, let me make it much more clear. IaaS means a cloud service provider manage the entire infrastructure for you. Okay, and in that, the actual servers like networking, virtualization, data storage, entire things through internet, which means that all these things can be on premises. So these services you will be getting on premises as well, right? So you'll be having virtual machines, you can get databases and everything on premises as well. So what they are doing, they are just hosting them through internet. That is infrastructure as a service. If I can show you this image, which is nothing but physical hardware and servers and something like that, the storages. So what they are doing, they are hosting them online. This is pretty much regarding your IaaS, infrastructure as a service, because we are getting the infrastructure in. Okay, and this entirely works on pay as you go model. So how much you use, pay for that. So if IaaS is clear, let's move to PaaS, platform as a service. So let's see what is PaaS. You can understand it's a complete cloud platform, which all things you have told me before, and it's an add of that. Exactly. So when you can say that the vendor will give you the on-premise hardware and he will be taking care of that entirely. So there you go. It's completely hardware or software or infrastructure for whatever you do, for building or running or managing your applications. Okay, this is gonna be the thing. And PaaS provider hosts you everything, guys. You will be having around about 100 to 200 services in PaaS. And people, here also you can go with pay as you go, or you can also go with something called as you can lease for a particular time. We call it as upfront payment. You will be paying entire amount before itself. So that agreement, it's basically an agreement which you are doing, and if you pay entire amount, the cloud provider will give you very much discount. since you are paying it all the amount upfront, or you can do partial upfronts as well. So actually this PaaS will be mainly used by developers and programmers. So these people might be using this PaaS service across multiple clouds as well for application development and management, which is nothing but, if you have heard about something like, so people, as I told you, this PaaS service is or PaaS model is moreover used for by what do you say, developers or programmers when they want to develop an application or manage it. So I hope you heard about something called as DevOps, developers plus operations. So all this DevOps is an entirely different team. Like it's, you can say, a team of testers. They do deployments, they build these projects and all these things. So once you pass on the code after from developer, that will be taken up by DevOps team. So they use PaaS a lot for testing, deployment, and all these things. So let's move to the SaaS. Very important one and very interesting one. So what is SaaS? So people, SaaS is a service that delivers a software application which the cloud provider manages to its users. So you can say typically all these SaaS are nothing but web applications or your mobile applications that you as a user access them through web browsers. Being an end user, you access them through web browsers. So you can say your Google, you can say your Facebook, you can say your Instagram, you can say your GitHub, all these things. So software updates, bug fixes, or any other software maintenance and entire thing are completely taken care of by the cloud itself, and the user can access them through APIs or through dashboards out here. Okay, SaaS also eliminates the need to have an app installed in your mobile application or your your iPads or whatever the device it is. So rather than installing the application, you can directly access them through web. That's the best part of having SaaS. So people, the best examples you can see out here. So CRM stands for customer relation management tools, like your Zoho Desk or whatever. We also use that Zoho Desk even out here, all these things. So mail servers, which will be, for example, you can say in AWS, you can say something called as Postman, which used to mail all these things, and social media networks, all these things. It goes on and on. You can say a bundle of list for SaaS these days. Right, guys? Everything, each and everything has to be as SaaS. Cool. Let's move on, people. Okay, people. Now let's see the main thing, cloud versus on-premise, the differences, main differences. So first of all, cost comes into picture. People remember this. Once you become a solutions architect, the first thing which should hit to your mind or your thoughts is being cost optimistic, because at the end of the day, every organization or every company or every MNC cares for that cost only. So designing an architecture which is very pocket friendly or cost effective, that makes you stand out from the rest of the world. Is this point clear, everyone? Do remember this. It's a very important point. Okay. So let's see cost. So when you compare with on-premises, okay, for enterprises that deploy software or on premises, they are solely responsible for the ongoing cost of the entire server hardware, power consumption, and the space which they require to store those. But when you opt for cloud, enterprises, whoever are opting for cloud, they can completely use cloud computing model, only need to pay for the resources they use rather than paying for the entire thing, right? For example, let's say I purchased on about 100 TB of a database. Let's say my database is having 100 TB. So what I can do out here, so if there is no use case, I used on about only 70 TB of data to store. So remaining 30 TB, I have paid the cost for it, but it's waste because I'm not using it, right, guys? But if you go with cloud, the quite opposite of it. So if you store only 70 TB of data, you'll be getting only charged for 70%, 70 TB. You'll not be getting charged for the rest 30 TB. Now, don't you think it's pocket friendly? Of course, it's pocket friendly, guys. Okay, and the main concerns also comes like, to run all this big hardwares, all this infrastructure, you need to pay for your own electricity. That also you'll be saving it up, right? You'll be saving your maintenance costs, all this thing. Exactly, pay as you go, you can say that. Now let's move to something called as availability. This is gonna be very interesting, guys. Availability. So on premises, as I've already discussed this point, no guarantee, okay, but still you have the entire servers located in a single place. But when you go to cloud, the availability zones, even if one is down, the others will be up, right? I'll show you how many availability zones we are having. Exactly, because we are completely dealing it with a different other provider. So it's the job of that provider to keep each and everything to be up and running. It's not your job. But when you take something on premises, that's completely your job. Now let's say deployment. So people, when you see on premises, the entire environment or resources deployed in-house or within an just enterprise IT organization, right? And it's on its own infrastructure, and it's completely responsible for its maintenance and related processes and all these things. But when you go with cloud, you can go on with either public cloud, you can go with private, you can go with hybrid, whichever suits up to your need. And public cloud environment, all those resources which you are hosting, right? All those services are completely taken care of by the enterprise who is hosting that cloud. And as I told you, you can use as much as you want. That's regarding your deployment. Now control, is this gonna be interesting? So whom do you think gonna be winning is in this control area? So who do you think will be having more control? People. So on premises will be having more control. So in on premises environment, your entire machines or your entire enterprise things retain the data completely in your under your control. Whatever the data you store or whatever the data is flowing outside, which is very limited and it's very selective, since you are the one which is allowing the flow of it. So either the better happen, either the worst case happen, that completely comes to you. And when you go to cloud, this is the opposite of it, because you are not the owner. The ownership is taken up by cloud provider, and data encryption keys and all these things even cloud providers will do, but you can't guarantee that every time there will not be any data leaks and your data is always secure as compared to on premises. But they are secure, guys, because cloud providers also build up themselves with new technologies, view encryption methodologies and all these things. So from the starting of a key pair till the storing of everything, you have multiple encryption methods which every cloud platform provider goes on with. So when you come to security, you can say on premises have some, if you are having any sensitive data such as governments or any banking industry data which should be having high security, then it's better to go with on premises rather than your cloud. Okay, but cloud is nowhere down, but it also has its own cons. Like you can say security concerns remains only the number one barrier when you go with cloud. So if you feel like you're not able to trust that cloud provider, or you feel like it's matter of security reasons of a country, very important or confidential data, then you can't trust the cloud providers as well, right? It's not always he can access that, because we have server side encryptions and all these things which even the account of AWS or anybody executive from AWS will not be able to access it. But there is always a concern of flaw out there, because the attacks are going day by day and people might find a flaw or any path to get into that. Now integrations, this is the best part where you can say that your entire cloud goes ahead before your entire on-premises machine. So people, I hope you might be knowing, if somebody is from any Apple ecosystem, you might be knowing the integration between Apple ecosystem versus Android ecosystem, right guys? So people, when you go with integrations, which are nothing but if you are taking the services which are offered to that particular service provider, you can integrate between multiple services. But that's not the case when you go with on premises. If you want to integrate also, the first con which comes in on premises is, first of all, you need to pay for that new machine entirely, and you need to integrate that entire hardware, right? But that's not the case. It's under your fingertips if you want to integrate multiple services together in cloud and at very low cost. After integration, we have something called as scalability. Scalability is nothing but it looks like you're more over the other points. So for example, let's say you are having 1 TB of hard disk and you are running storage, you're running sort of storage. What you will do, you need to purchase another one and you need to store your other data, right guys? But that's not the part with your scalability in cloud. For example, if you're running low with storage or memory or your virtual CPUs or anything like that, what you can do using your cloud provider, you can scale up. You can scale them up based upon your usage. Okay, and you can automatically trigger that scaling as well based upon the CPU utilization. That's the best. Is it making sense, people? For example, let's say my machine is having only 6 GB of RAM. When the hits are more, when my system is not capable of handling all of them, I can make an architecture in a way that if the RAM is getting full, it automatically gets increased. It automatically deploys new machines to take the load. So people, that's pretty much regarding your scalability. And the 8th point, I hope you're already aware. Yes, low energy cost, because if you don't have any such type of hardware that huge scale of hardware running out in your on premises, you'll be saying lots of or tons of electricity, right guys? And the ninth one, which we have already talked about, just disaster management. Since you are not hosting them, only you are hiring them, so the cloud provider should be taking care of this entire disaster management. So people, if this point is clear, what we'll do is, let's move to the cloud providers. Who all are the main players are there in this cloud providing things? Okay, so let's see the cloud providers, the major players. So people, there you go. The major player is AWS. The majority of the stack in this entire industry is AWS. And now Azure is no way down. It's catching up very quick with AWS. And now these two are the main players. After this, followed by GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Okay, so these three are the main players, guys. And followed by, we have other clouds like your Nvidia, we have Salesforce Cloud, we have Oracle Cloud, we have Alibaba, we have IBM, we have what do you say, this one's Infosys Cloud, we have Apple Cloud, we have Radon Cloud. We have tons of clouds, but these three stands as the major players. Let's see what is the OS offered in your entire cloud operators, main OSs which are offered. Okay, so basically, if you're having presume that if you're having a monitor or if you're having a CPU, you should be also having all the different resources which are required by that, right? Like you can say your hard disks, your SSDs, your RAM, and all these things, right guys? The same way, cloud also offers you all these things. So you can increase the number of virtual CPUs which you want to run this machine on, or you can say you can increase the storage, like the entire SSD, you can increase the RAM, you can create a file system if you want to attach multiple machines together. Okay, all these things over here. So these are the main different operating systems, like the images. So you have Ubuntu, you have Red Hat, Windows, CentOS, SUSE Linux, Amazon Linux, Mac OS, Windows Server. You can say Debian when you go to GCP and all these things. I hope it's clear, guys, right? And we also have different services like EFS, Elastic File Systems. We have FSX. So these all are the different file systems which are used to connect to your multiple machines. The FSX can be also used to bind up the machine which are on premises with the machines which are in cloud as well. That's the best part of these services. So people, moving on, let's see what all the services does this cloud providers are having us for offer. Right? Yes, it charges you hourly, but if you go with something like full upfront for a particular machine, so your charges might reduce. So people, let's see what all the services does this cloud providers help us out. Okay, so people, this is regarding your AWS. I didn't include every service, guys. I just included only some services, but AWS offers you round about 250 plus unique services. Each one has their own path or their own way for their deployments. Okay, so we have something like compute, we have storage, we have databases, we have networking. Each and every domain has their own resources. So AWS Lambda is one service where it automatically launches the machine, it automatically creates a load balancer and takes all your load based upon your code. And EC2 is the one, Elastic Compute Cloud. It stands for you do everything manually out here. Okay, and for administration and security, I talked to this also regarding this, right? So we have IAM, we have KMS, each and everything out here. We have CloudFront, Cloud Trail, we have Detective, and all these things in AWS. So enterprise level also you have, guys. And mobile services are nothing but if you want to get notified every moment what are the things going on, you want to have a subscription service, mails or SMS services, all these things, AWS even offers you for that. As we have multiple sources, guys, 250 plus unique services. Think of that. So at the end, I'll also show you by opening AWS console also. So which domain or which people does they use which services. And people, AWS has its own 26 unique regions. So AWS has its entire network across 26 different regions. So North Virginia, North California, Ohio, Cape Town, and all this thing. Okay. So people, on top of this 26 regions, we have 84 availability zones. Now, what is this availability zone? So people, I'll tell you what exactly is availability zones. Okay. Assume that this is one of your availability zone. Okay. Let's say North Virginia. Okay. This is one of my region. In this region, I have multiple availability zones. Availability zones are nothing but you can say those are different data centers, okay, in the specific region, but in different places. So in North Virginia only, they are completely in different places, but they are interrelated. So how this helps? Let's say you're storing your data across this region in North Virginia. So what happens? Your data can be going and it will be storing across multiple availability zones. So even let's say this one is down, this availability zone is down, so your data will be up and it will be coming back to you from this availability zone or something which is very close to your region. Let's say if you're having or working for some any like your banking industry or your stock market industry, right, where each and every minute or every second, every millisecond, the market trend changes and you need to monitor everything. So in that places, what exactly those people do is they take the risk of storing their entire data only in particular availability zone. So this is pretty much regarding your AWS services. Now let's see what are the services offered by Azure. So people, Azure offers you, this is the second highest service provider. This offers you around about 200 services. So Azure offers you around about 200 services across 54 regions, the highest in any cloud provider. So Azure itself has 54 regions. Okay, everyone, Azure is having 54 regions and each region are having a minimum of 3 availability zone. Okay, 3 availability zones across this entire 54 regions. So you can say that 54, if you have into base of 3, so you will be getting around about 162. So that's the math for you people. So these are the different types of services. For compute, you have virtual machines, you have all these things, the storage and all these things. So AWS has 250 plus services, Azure has 200 services, and Azure is really catching up and they are going neck to neck on top of services as they have promised. So people, if that's clear, let's say GCP. So GCP offers you the third highest services, which are 100. So AWS is offering you 250 plus, your Azure is offering you 200, and your GCP is offering you 100 plus services. 100 services in GCP, and we have 25 regions. Only 25 regions we are having in GCP and 75 availability zones across the 25 regions. That's pretty much small figures regarding your GCP, guys. Now the main thing, people buy the things whatever I have told you. Now if you're still in a dilemma, like what, or I mean, how is the career in cloud gonna be? It's already started now. Career in cloud, you saw this cloud market is completely booming up, and right now an average solutions architect, I'll talk about the salaries and these things also, don't worry. Now you want to answer me out what is about your career in cloud. There's only one simple answer: cloud is the future. So people, if that's clear, let's see what are the different types of certifications does that each cloud provider offers us. So cloud architect. So people, cloud architect is nothing but you have tons of services, but there should be a one who will be creating the services and deploying the services, right guys? He is called as cloud architect or solutions architect. Okay, the one who develops the cloud is called cloud developer, and based on this cloud we have multiple certifications, guys. There you go. This is a solutions architect associate level certification, and we have solutions architect professional level certification as well. Solutions architect, there you go. In professional also we have solutions architect, and we have DevOps engineer, systems operations engineer, administrator. And if you want to really look into administration and database, something like that, you also have some specialty certifications in AWS for them, guys. All this exams will add lots of importance to your CV, and ultimately we are gonna be making you clear to the solutions architect, which is the main focus of this entire thing. So entire industry is booming together through a solutions architect. So this is pretty much regarding your AWS. Now let's see about Azure. So in Azure also you have multiple certifications, like you can say AZ 900, the fundamentals exam, which is very much equal to your cloud practitioner, the fundamentals. Okay, so AZ 900, you have AZ 104. This is administrator, which is very much similar to your AWS solutions architect. Guys, just for information, just go to your LinkedIn and type that cloud engineer. You'll come to see how good the opportunities are. All these certifications. Let's see what is the salary you get paid off. So people, there you go. That's the reason I'm telling you cloud architect or the solutions architect. There you can see this is the average pay, the highest across multiple certifications: cloud engineer, cloud software engineer, cloud consultant, automation engineer, network engineer, security analyst or administrator. In everything, this is the highest. Whenever you talk with any package, we always talk for annum, not for month. Okay, that's pretty much from my side, guys. So yes, so that's the end of this webinar. I hope you learned something very informative regarding your career path as well as the cloud basics. So thank you so much, guys. I would love to see you once again.